Hello again, and welcome back for our reflection on the readings of the 16th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Way back in middle of 2004, I was attending a graduation ceremony, and the keynote speaker was a remarkable fellow called William Safire. Now, many of my parishioners here in Bellinger may not have heard of him, but he's quite a famous American writer, speechwriter, and author. He was the speechwriter for President Nixon. He won a Pulitzer Prize. He was one of the great writers for the New York Times before he died in 2009. Anyway, I remember the reason I bring him up is he gave the keynote address at this graduation ceremony, and it was one that had us all listening very attentively. It was a very funny speech, and it was all about the development of mobile phones, or as they call them in America, cell phones. And he talked about his time when he was working with Nixon, how they had the first car phones, and they thought that was the bee's knees. And he sort of went through the development over the years of how we ended up coming to Android phones and iPhones, etc. Although I don't think we had iPhones and Androids at the time he was talking, but we still had the small mobile phones. It was a fairly long speech, very entertaining, but the message was actually a very simple one. And it was, turn off your cell phones, turn off your mobile phones. Now, he wasn't saying by that we should not use them or anything else, that they're good technology, but he was reminding people that if we're not careful, we can become enslaved by all the demands of the society around us. And the mobile phone is a good metaphor of that we can become entrapped by it, and we need to turn it off and not become a slave to it, because there are in fact more important things in life than being in constant communication with a little phone that's in your pocket. So for me, I think it's an important reference or message that is really at the heart of today's gospel too, that while the demands of the world around us and the society around us can be very important and even essential for us to attend to, there is something far more important that often gets drowned out by the pressures of our life. And I especially think, as we're starting hopefully to emerge out of this pandemic, that when we've been at home, perhaps we've become even more enslaved to screens, whether it be iPads, computers, televisions, or iPhones, or phones in general. It's a reminder to us, I think, that in the end, there's something more important that we need to be attentive to. It reminds me of the story of Elijah when he's on the mountain and he has that encounter with the living God. And the living God is not in the fire, he's not in the storm, he's not in the earthquake, but he's in the still, small silence. And I think that's true for us today, that God is in the still, small silence. And that delicate silence is too easily drowned out by the noise and the clamor and the demands of our life in modern society. And so in the gospel today, we have this story about Martha and Mary, and about perhaps these two dynamics in our life. Traditionally, we talk about the dynamics of contemplation and action. Perhaps we can talk about the dynamics of silence and the pressures of life, or the actions that we have to perform in our society. And in the gospel today, and also in the first reading, where you have the mysterious three strangers coming to visit Abraham, this story is cast in the context of hospitality or service. Abraham waits on the Lord. He serves him when he comes to visit Abraham and Sarai. In the gospel, initially at least, it's Martha who appears to be waiting on the Lord, as Abraham did, focusing on the Lord. But while she appears to be acting like Abraham did, in fact she's not. Her heart's not in the right place. Abraham had his full intention on his heavenly visitor. Martha has her attention on her sister, Mary, whom she thinks is shirking her duty. Instead, of course, it's Mary who's the one who's being truly hospitable, who is truly being a disciple, because her whole attention is on the Lord. And so the point of the story in the gospel is not that prayer and action are hostile to each other. We only heard last week in the parable of the Good Samaritan how important our actions are. But that rather real and fruitful Christian action has at its source attention to the Lord, attention to his presence. In other words, action has its source and its power in prayer. And the native country of prayer is solitude and silence. Now, we all don't have to become monks, but it is a healthy thing for us as human beings to have moments in the day of silence where we just listen to the Lord deep in our heart, read the scriptures. The very core of our faith is a deep and profound relationship with the Holy Trinity. And that relationship is entered into and nurtured through primarily worship, the new covenant, the Sunday Mass, the celebration of the sacraments, but also as essential is that time each day for daily personal reading of the sacred scriptures, having that time of quiet, even if it's only 10 minutes. I know we lead very, very busy lives, all of us, and we can find a great pressure. But when we seek to live this relationship with Christ, with those moments of silence, then his presence can be more profound and his grace more efficacious in all the events and the actions of the day. So in other words, the busier we are, in fact, I can remember a venerable Benedictine monk telling me this, I don't know how long ago now, probably 30 years ago. Father Ed Doran, his name was. He has since passed away too, but I remember him telling me, the busier we are, the more important it is that we find time for the most important relationship in our life, here and for eternity, and that's our relationship with God. If we truly believe that Christ and God are the most important people in our lives, then we need to work on that relationship, just like we need to work on any relationship. If we reduce Christianity down to just engaging in social justice, as essential and as important as that is, but without Sunday worship at Mass and without personal prayer, then we become like Martha. And then Christianity is no longer Christianity, but rather it's ultimately a barren exercise in ethical behavior. The focus is no longer Christ, but on being nice or good. And this is not what Christ is calling us to. He's calling us to something far more. So echoing the words of William Safire way back in 2004, turn off your metaphorical cell phones. Give yourself space and time to listen to the still small voice of God. Take after the example of Mary, not simply of Martha. Allow yourself to grow in the understanding and the awareness of the presence of God in every moment of your life. And then your action, then your behavior will be truly powerful, will be truly Christian. May God bless you.